What if history doesn't just repeat itself? It replays with louder engines, brighter flashes,
Target acquisition in
and
progress.
deadlier stakes. Picture this. Under the cover of night, the skies above Warsaw vibrate with the thunder of rotor blades. Apache attack helicopters from the United States, sleek silhouettes with glowing red infrared lights, descend onto Polish soil. It is midnight, but the city is not asleep. Cell phones capture the scene. The news spreads in seconds, and questions ripple across Europe. Why are these American gunships landing here now and in the dead of night? Only days later, Russian state television airs triumphant footage from a factory floor. Workers in uniforms applaud as a line of freshly built S-500 Prometey missiles rolls past. A voiceover proclaims, "Production has doubled, and with it, Russia's defenses are now impenetrable." Moscow insists it is ready for anything NATO can throw at it. For many watching, the contrast is impossible to ignore. On one side, helicopters designed to strike with speed and precision. On the other, a wall of missiles built to stop anything that moves. If this sounds like a rerun from the Cold War, you are not alone. Some are already calling it the Cuban Missile Crisis, version 2.0. But with Warsaw as the new Havana. Now let's be clear. This video is not an endorsement of war. We are not cheering for confrontation. What we are doing is pulling back the curtain, analyzing strategy, and asking whether what we are seeing in 2025 is the beginning of a new Iron Curtain, one built not with ideology, but with helicopters, missiles, and fear. The timing of the Apache deployment matters. If this was simply about training, why do it under darkness? Why wake up Warsaw in the middle of the night instead of parading the aircraft in broad daylight? The answer lies in both tactics and messaging. A night deployment tests NATO's ability to operate under low visibility. It sharpens crews for the kind of scenario nobody wants, but everyone must prepare for: sudden conflict on Europe's eastern edge. But it also whispers a message across borders. If this is how fast we can deploy in peacetime, imagine how fast we can move in crisis. For Poland, the site is reassurance. For Russia, it is something else entirely. A reminder that American steel and firepower now sit just miles from Kaliningrad. And what of the Russian response? The S-500 Prometey is touted as Moscow's crown jewel of air defense, a system capable of striking down stealth aircraft, ballistic missiles, and even low-orbit satellites. Russian media calls it the shield of the 21st century, a system so advanced that nothing from the West can survive against it. The reality, as always, is more complicated. The S-500 is formidable, no doubt. Its long-range radar networks, layered interceptors, and hypersonic engagement capabilities make it a serious threat. But it also remains largely untested outside of staged exercises. Unlike Patriot, which has proven itself in real-world combat, including shooting down hypersonic missiles over Ukraine, the S-500 has yet to face the chaos of a real battlefield. And when it comes to hardware that costs billions, practice drills are not the same as reality. This brings us to the heart of the standoff. The United States projects strength with offensive tools. Apaches that can dominate the night sky, armored brigades that can cross borders, and precision missiles that strike with surgical accuracy. Russia, by contrast, clings to its defensive narrative. Instead of showcasing fleets of new fighters or bombers, it doubles down on shields, S-400, S-500, and beyond. It is as if Moscow knows it cannot match the U.S. plane for plane or tank for tank, and so it hides behind a wall of rockets. Walls may look intimidating, but they also say something. You are not confident enough to meet your rival in open space. Does this sound familiar? In 1962, the Soviet Union shipped nuclear missiles to Cuba, believing it could frighten the United States into backing down. Instead, Washington drew a line and forced Moscow to blink. Fast forward to 2025 and we see echoes of that same gamble. Warsaw becomes the front line, Apaches on one side, S-500s on the other. One side flexes by projecting force across oceans. The other flexes by building fortresses in fear of intrusion. The symmetry is striking, but the imbalance is just as clear. So what does this mean for NATO? For Poland, these helicopters are more than military hardware. They are political theater. They tell Polish citizens that the alliance will not leave them exposed. They tell Moscow that intimidation has its limits. And they tell the rest of NATO that unity can be expressed not just in words, but in roaring machines that land at midnight. The S-500, meanwhile, is Russia's way of saying, "We are not weak, we are prepared." Yet the louder Moscow shouts about its missiles, the more the world suspects insecurity. After all, when was the last time Russia unveiled a defensive system without insisting it was invincible? If you have to say it out loud, maybe it is not as invincible as you want people to believe. But let's not kid ourselves. Both moves carry risk. Every Apache that lands in Poland brings reassurance, yes, but it also brings the chance of miscalculation. Every new S-500 rolled off the line strengthens Russian defenses, but it also tempts Moscow into believing it can take risks it should not. History teaches us that crises rarely begin with a declaration. They begin with shadows. Planes circling too close, missiles move too far forward, words misinterpreted at the wrong time. If Cuba was the flashpoint in 1962, could Warsaw be the flashpoint in 2025? Here's the chilling question. Are we watching the rehearsal of Cold War 2.0? The parallels are uncanny. One side sends machines meant to strike, the other builds machines meant to block. Both sides claim they are protecting peace, yet both raise the stakes of war. Back then, we called it the balance of terror. Today, we might call it the theater of deterrence. And just like before, the rest of the world watches nervously, wondering which leader will blink first. Perhaps the real irony is this. In Cuba, the crisis lasted 13 days. In Warsaw, this could last years. Not a short burst of tension, but a drawn-out, grinding standoff with helicopters, missiles, and propaganda playing their roles like actors in a familiar script. Only this time, the stage is not a tropical island, but the cold plains of Eastern Europe. Only this time, the stakes are not just nuclear weapons and silos, but the daily movements of troops, aircraft, and radar. And only this time, the audience is not just Washington and Moscow, but every nation that sits between them. So what should we take away? The midnight landing of American Apaches was not random. It was a deliberate statement. NATO can move fast, quietly, and decisively. The S-500 assembly lines doubling output were not routine. They were a desperate attempt to show that Russia still has cards to play. And when you put these two moves side by side, the picture is unmistakable. The new Iron Curtain may not be drawn on maps, but it is very real in the skies above Europe. For the United States and its allies, the challenge is to maintain unity, to show that Apaches and Patriots are not just symbols, but tools of credible defense. For Russia, the challenge is to avoid believing its own propaganda, to realize that a wall of missiles is not the same as actual parity. And for the rest of us, the lesson is sobering. History does not sleep. Sometimes it wakes in the middle of the night, carried on the rotor blades of a helicopter, flashing in the gleam of a missile assembly line, reminding us that the past is never truly past. So we end with a question for you. Are we witnessing routine maneuvers, or are we seeing the curtain rise on Cold War 2.0? Is Warsaw becoming the Cuba of the 21st century? The spark that could ignite a wider blaze? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Novastra Defense for more in-depth analysis of the weapons, strategies, and rivalries shaping tomorrow's world. Because sometimes, the scariest echoes of history are not locked in dusty books. They are flying overhead in the night sky, waiting for someone to misinterpret their meaning.